I've just been to see the new F1 movie. My God, was my mind blown. Let's talk all about the movie, and particularly the Hans Zimmer score. A very warm welcome to my friend wherever you may be in the world. If you're new here, hello, my name is Vaughn George. I'm an artist development coach, a keyboardist for the UK band Mesh, and a lover of music, and who isn't? On this channel, we focus primarily on pianos, keyboards, and synthesizers, and usually instruments that have a keyboard on them. Not exclusively, but mainly. So hopefully you'll stick around, and hopefully I will earn your subscription at the end of this. Now, I've not been to the movies in years. I've not been to a cinema. It's something I used to really love doing. Without being cynical, I think a lot of you will agree with me, especially people who are my age and older. You will remember movies in the 80s and the 90s, and somewhere things just went wrong, especially if we look at Netflix and Amazon and films like that in the last recent years. Films have become so sort of preachy. There's a lot of exposition, and it's almost like a lot of the films these days, they don't respect their audience. There's a lot of exposition and explanation, and there's so much box ticking and casting people that are not convincing in their roles in order to, tick boxes. I'm not going to say any more than that. This film, however, does away with all that crap. It's been years since I walked away from a movie thinking, oh my God, this movie brought back memories of those best movies we saw. Those movies that bring you to tears and edge of your seat. And we always hear those sayings, but their movies don't usually do that. This did it. Oh my God. In fact, I should have probably filmed this. I should have calmed down before I sort of filmed this, but I figured I wanted you to feel my real enthusiasm. Now, I'm not a movie critic. I'm not an F1 fan. But before I get to the Hans Zimmer score, which is the main thing of this video, I think it's important that I tell you a little bit about the film, my feelings about it, and because this goes deeper than just a movie. This movie has had quite a profound effect on me. I don't know why, but hopefully you will just hear me out. Starring a 60-year-old Brad Pitt. Calm down, ladies. Yeah, he still looks fantastic. Combination between good genes and, I suppose, a lot of money. I think this has been one of the criticisms because there are the Formula One nerds out there. There's some pushback online about the movie where people are just tearing it to shreds because it's unrealistic. Now, within that, you've got to understand that with movies, you have artistic license as a director. If you make a movie that's 100% authentic, then you've got to put a bit of drama into it. So I think we all understand that. Certainly, if you're going there to criticize it, it's easy to criticize stuff. But if you're just going in there to enjoy it, you will enjoy it. Brad Pitt's age has been an issue for some of the fans. Formula One nerds will know that when you race Formula One, I think you retire in your mid-30s. I mean, it's really something you do in your younger years because of the tremendous physical strain that it takes on your body. Regardless of that, we had a fantastically entertaining movie here, and the director, who's the same director as Top Gun Maverick, I mean, they've just really pushed the boat out. Just the cinematography, the way the cameras move, and they just really wanted you to see Formula One in a way you've never seen before. And I saw the movie Rush, and that was fantastic. But this has gone to a whole new level. I was so intrigued by the cinematography, everything. Everything was fabulous. This really was an edge of your seat movie. And I promise you, when the opening title started, I was covered in goose flesh. And at one point I sat there with tears in my eyes. I promise you, it was just so emotional. It reminded me the opening of Top Gun, when those jets take off, with that Harold Faltermeyer theme. I mean, it doesn't get better than that. Damson Idris was very, very good in this. He was very convincing. I really bought him and believed him as a character. These two, the characters, JP and Sonny Hayes, they couldn't be further apart. I mean, you've got this young Caribbean background guy who lives, in South London. He's got the old South London accent, or I don't know if it's South London, but he's got the South London accent. And you've got Brad Pitt, who's this 60-year-old sort of kind of cowboy kind of character. They are chalk and cheese, and the way they sort of don't get on because they've just got nothing in common, and then how they sort of get to become it's kind of like a bromance, but not in a cheesy way. Damson's character is very balanced because he plays the line perfectly between being this cocky, somewhat arrogant, young, reckless Formula One driver, but at the same time, it's balanced by this self-awareness, which is thanks to his mother, which is played by Sarah Niles, and she does a fantastic job sort of being his mum, and you can just see the sort of grounding that she brings when she talks about his dad and how, you know, how proud he would have been. And this is the message I like within this movie, is it's bringing that message of positivity into it and that humanity without being preachy. So to summarize the movie, fantastic. I love the feel-good feeling, like those feelings from movies you got the earlier on, the good films. It's not preachy, but you leave this film feeling good. It just shows you, in a non-preachy way, the great achievements of humanity. You know, you think of Formula One. I mean, there's nothing higher than that in the form of motorsport. Just the ultimate, and how human beings, although we're flawed, we can be great, and how we can get on. And it's just, anyway, I'm getting too philosophical here. What brings me mainly to the Hans Zimmer score. Oh! Hans Zimmer, one of the most outstanding composers working in the industry at the moment. And in fact, every big blockbuster movie now has Hans Zimmer as the composer. It's in the typical vein of Hans Zimmer, where it's synthesizers with orchestra. But the melody in this is so sort of reminiscent of sort of like 80s, you know, synthesizer music, new wave. You're thinking of Grand Theft Auto. It also reminds me a lot of that album by The Weeknd. So it's very contemporary, but it's also got this retro vibe, and then the combination between the synthesizers and the orchestra, it's absolutely gorgeous. Now, what's also nice about the melody is there is something sort of very, I won't say predictable, but sort of familiar about it, and that's always good. If you just allow me to segue slightly, a lot of the Hans Zimmer scores we hear in the past, they're great, but I guess movies these days don't really focus on memorable themes, and there's not time, but in fact I will do a video on that where I talk about, you know, movie scores like, you know, Star Wars and Raiders of the Lost Ark. These days a lot of movies, it's like the soundtrack is there just to sort of enhance what you're seeing and not to detract. So what I mean is you don't get like those things tend to be, it's usually this kind of thing. It's that kind of thing, you know, bum, 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 bum. But with this movie, you get a proper sort of melody, a real old school kind of riff, a melodic theme that runs through, and something you can really latch onto, and something that is very, very memorable too. Straightforward, very, very simple. It's one of those melodies, in fact, it's so kind of simple. When you analyze it, you're kind of like, oh God, why didn't I think of that? Very, very effective. It's very, very Hans Zimmery. And when you analyze it and break it down, you can kind of hear the elements, you know, of Broken Arrow and a lot of the other things he's done in it, albeit a very different type of composition. It's just the way he does things. Especially when you hear the finished product, you can always hear, that's a Hans Zimmer thing. Right, let's run through the structure of the song, sort of focusing on the chords. I'm going to use this orchestral sound just because it helps flesh out the song better. Starting on the D, does this kind of thing. And this drums and synthesizer come in, and the melody, the main sort of melodic riff, is on the following chord sequence. It's a D minor to an A minor, into a C, then to a G. And the melody is as follows. And then onto the A minor now. And then onto the C. And then onto the G. And then the melody kind of goes up, so to speak, but the same chords. Okay, then we come back to the D again with sequence and pop, 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 and then the melody kind of transposes into the higher octave. Same chords once again. We then come to this part here, which is just a B flat and then back to a D minor, and then you have this melodic sort of riff, which I'm just kind of free flowing here. Now we get to the final part here, which goes down to the G. And that particular progression, we've heard it a million times in classical music and sort of dramatic stuff. It's just this. We then basically just end on the D. I do think that Zimmer has written sort of like a modern classic here, and I think we will come back to this movie many years from now, and you will always hear this song and you will always recognize it. It's very, very memorable. I think, as I said earlier, there are a lot of movies these days that you go and see them and then you leave and you're kind of blown away by the spectacle and everything, but you don't sort of tend to remember the music, and this itself is such a incredibly memorable piece. When you strip this down to the piano, you can hear just the simplicity of the piano. Just brings out the richness of it. And I'm just free flowing with it now, just to sort of give you the feel of the chords. D minor, A minor, C, and then G. So you can see it just works perfectly. Zimmer's stuff is timeless, and as I say, he's really, I think, pushed the boat out on this one. I think if you want to get critical, I think stuff like the Dune movie he did, the sound design in that was just out of this world. Whereas I think the composition in this was more sort of, I would say traditional, but yes, I guess it wasn't mad and out there, but my God, did he fill the brief, and what a track. I'm going to play you a piano interpretation of this now. It's just free-flowing and thoughtful. So there you have it. Did I mention this was one of my new favorites? Oh, absolutely love it. Now, my friend, if you're new here and you're still here, hopefully I've earned your subscription. Please let me know your feelings on this track. And this is a very different type of video. Let me know if you like the format. To those of you who've been following me for a while, let me know if you like this thing. I like the idea of talking about movies and kind of breaking the stuff down and just, talking about my feelings on the movie. And I don't know, let me know in the comments, because your comments dictate the direction of this channel. So as always, I want to thank you for your support since the beginning, and leave your thoughts on this movie, anything you want to say. I look forward to seeing you at the next live event, YouTube video, or mesh show. Lots of love, and I'll see you on the next video. Adios.